King George V was the King of the United Kingdom and the Emperor of India from 1910 to his death in 1936. He is the grandfather of Queen Elizabeth, who you can see him pictured with here. He suffered from a respiratory illness in 1928, to which Lord Dawson of Penn managed, ultimately saving his life. This earned the doctor quite the reputation and respect. In the king's final months of his life, he suffered from poor health due to a chronic lung issue, so it was no surprise that they called upon Lord Dawson to treat him. Unfortunately, the doctor was not able to save his life, and on January 20th, 1936, King George V passed away. The next morning, newspapers reported his death and referred to it as a peaceful ending, as you can see in this newspaper here. It would not be until 1986 that the world would know what really happened to the king the night of his death. Rewind back to 1945, the celebrity doctor Lord Dawson passed away, leaving behind a diary. Lady Dawson, his widow, requested that Francis Watson compose a biography about his life. He agreed and studied Lord Dawson's diary for this purpose. 30 years after he released it in 1950, he told History Today that he had left out some details out of respect for his wife. These details had to do with the death of King George V, which Francis revealed to History Today in 1986. According to the diary, Queen Mary and Prince Edward VIII told Lord Dawson that they didn't want the king's life to be unnecessarily prolonged if his illness was clearly fatal. There was no mention if King George V agreed to this or even knew of it. Not long after, Lord Dawson, quote, therefore decided afterwards to determine the end and injected morphia and shortly afterwards cocaine into the king's distended jugular vein. Despite the world believing that King George V's last words were quote-unquote bugger Bogner, the diary revealed it was really, quote, God damn you. This was said to Dawson himself as the king dozed off after being injected with a lethal mixture. After the injection, which occurred at 11 p.m., and later the king's death at 11:55 p.m., Lord Dawson called Queen Mary to tell her to quote-unquote hold back publication, so that the king's death could be reported in the more dignified morning paper rather than the evening one. Lord Dawson reported that he intended to give the king a peaceful death, but there was no indication if King George V realized what was occurring. Lord Dawson spent the rest of his life vouching for medical euthanasia, which at the time no one found suspicious.